Hi, everyone. Hope you've had a great week. I'm really excited today. I've got Peter Voon joining me from Singapore. And Peter and I had the opportunity to work together in 2017, back in when Peter was at LinkedIn. And I'm super excited to interview him today because I feel that he has such a wealth of knowledge to share about leadership. If for those of you that haven't met me, my name is Kasia, and I'm a global leadership coach working with leaders around the world to help them implement the best possible leadership skills so that organizations get stronger business results. And as I mentioned, Peter has been an incredible sales leader, and he started off in sales over 10. How many years has it been, Peter?
Oh, wow, that's like, 10 plus years. I think precisely maybe about 14 years, 15 years ago.
14, 15 years ago.
Yeah.
He's had about 10 years as a sales manager, and he's had an incredible career, spending about 5 years at Apple as a manager, and then later at LinkedIn and Salesforce as well, which is quite a amazing career, Peter, that you've had so far.
Thank you.
So I wanted to ask you, how did you get into sales in the first place? What made you decide to move into this as a career?
Yep. Um, yeah, that has to backtrack around like 14, 15 years ago, where when I first completed my diploma, where I think family has got into economic crisis, where, dad and mom and saying that, maybe it's good for you to stop for a period of time and then, start working so you can support the family and yourself as well. So that's where, it struck my mind, like if money is a factor, so if I can earn more money, I can continue my studies where the dream was to go to Sheffield Hallam in London in UK to finish my degree or master in engineering. So that was a very noble and naive kind of like intentions. That's why I get myself into sales because that's what everyone says, right? Sales can bring you immediate earn in terms of money and you can continue to do whatever you like after you earn the money itself. And that's how it's all started. It's a very straightforward reason.
So it was a way for you to save money to finish your engineering degree.
Yes, absolutely.
And what
And
happened? How did you end up staying in sales all this time?
yeah, so I think after a while being in the sales and environment, I get tired. I think when you back to about 14, 15 years ago in the world back then, there's not much of leadership coaching and talking about like, how do you help your young professional to gain that mental satisfactions. Your leaders will tell you like, sales is all about buying yourself expensive watches, buying yourself a condo, getting expensive cars, and then they'll be driving their BMWs, showing you like, this is what you're gonna get if you work hard for it. So that works for a while, but then slowly I found that it does not give me that mental satisfaction. I was really lost. I was like, what's next for me? Yes, I start to earn good money, and then but what's next other than buying all these materials? And what about my own educations? And when I ask leaders about like, oh, my dream is to continue my education, um, they kind of like this on that. They kind of like, oh, why you need that when you can earn good money? Like, you don't need a degree or master to earn good money. So it's a very different world where people think slightly differently. Hence, it go against my belief, and also it doesn't give me the mental satisfaction. Hence, I proceed as I go, okay, and then landed up in Apple,
Hmm.
and then that's where I learned a lot about the philosophy about doing goods for community, and they teach me about passions. They embrace me for what I like and what I believe is it's correct. So it's a very safe environment. Hence, I completed my different degree day after I have learned a lot about myself, about what I like, and etc. The way Apple nurtured me, I'm highly grateful about it. Hence, I completed my degree when I was with Apple in business management for mass communication.
So it sounds like you really learned a lot at Apple.
Yep.
So I'm curious, Peter, in terms of the kinds of leadership that you saw there, what was it that you saw, from a employee perspective
You
from
mean
the leaders at
in
Apple? Yeah, from the leaders, because I have heard that I've heard many different things. I was reading actually Kim Scott's Radical Candor's book, and she talks about life at Apple. So I was curious what your observations were about what kind of leadership was present when you were there.
Right. So when I was in Apple, I work predominantly in the online store environment. I think it is a very close environment where people know each other, and then it's not a small organization. At least I think to add up, we have at least 400 to 500 peoples working diligently to make things work for the online stores. Um, the environment, the culture itself. If I would have to narrate it with 3 points, one is like it's really high passions where all of us happily go to work and to get things done, and we know we are doing a greater goods. And second, we are always excited to look at what's next. What's next thing's gonna happen, new products, a new way of doing business, and what is the most advanced technology that we bringing to the marketplace, not only selling but also more like engaging them. And lastly, our continuance in studying not only for the product but also for how the community is perceiving about our company as a whole, as what we call the customer experience. It's all about customer experience, and we even measure if 1 to 10, we will only measure ourselves as successful when the customer give us a 9 or 10 in
Mm-hmm.
ratings about how satisfied they are, that working with us, buying through us, and collaborating with us. So that is what teaches me or teaches us a lot to be like, oh wow, we are really making an impact. When you see someone write you back a survey saying that, oh, my wife or my husband love the iPad that you guys recommended over, and that was really priceless emotion that we capture via video. And I just want to say thank you for helping me to make the right decisions. And that little message will just make your week or your month, knowing that you have
Yeah.
made an impacts. So that's what
Yeah.
I learned in terms of culture there.
You're making me think about, these positive aspects of it's actually interesting because a lot of people don't like the idea of having to do sales. And yet, when you're selling a product that you really believe in or a service that you really believe in, it can be really, really rewarding. So that's interesting.
Yep.
What would you say is like the most important thing that you learned as a leader in your time there?
I think making an impact and being a listener, knowing what your young professional is seeking for. If they're lost, help them to find their way. So I think the people factors is what I learned the most in Apple. Like how Apple teach me to be very focused at people welfare, not only for our customer, but also for our internal talents. Say, for example, we hire a lot of youngsters, and a lot of them are fresh graduate from their degree or masters. They have hard time thinking about like what's next for them. So while clinging on the job itself, they slowly get confused. Like, is this the right job for me or not, and etc. So I think as a coach, as a manager, as a leader, it's not only talking about business all the time. I would have to
Mm-hmm.
say at least half of the time during our one-to-one or team meetings, I talks about the world outside there, and I talks about example of myself, and I talk example of other leaders to help them do more study, to be more informed, to to craft their ability to be self-independent in nurturing their future. And then tell them that it's all right as long as you make that decision and you're conscious of making that decisions for your own future and for your own career. And then I give them a lot of informations and kind of like talks a lot about it. So that's the biggest thing I take away from Apple, which is the people. How do we help people to be successful? Not in one way, but in the way that they believe is correct.
Interesting. Yeah. And I definitely picked that up from you that you were very focused on the people that you're working with and you very much care about them. Um, I was curious, after such an amazing 5 years at Apple, what made you decide to move to LinkedIn?
Yep, I think that's a very good question for my transitions. Um, Tapping on what I mentioned earlier, right? If I'm doing that coaching and sharing with my young professionals in my team and teaching them to find their future, their own path, and etc. And that kind of reflect back to me when I'm alone at home, when I get off work. It kind of like still play in my mind the dialogue that I had for that day. It's like, what's next for you, Peter? And then, what are you looking for? Apple is such a great place. You're doing such an amazing job. Like what else that you are looking for? So hence that, I start crafting my own path and my own future. And how should it look like? Apple have everything. They have platform, they have a lot of internet as a service, they have a lot of their own ecosystem. It's a very self-sufficient business. So hence that I start looking into like what other things within the world that that doesn't have, or they are not focusing at. It's really about those services, which is internet as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. And that was the hip thing back to so many years ago. About, I think that's close to 8 to 10 years ago. Hence that get me excited. And I start studying them. I start with Palo Alto as a company, and that's an internet as a service company. And then I get really interested, and hence I look into more and more different company, including LinkedIn. So hence that when I look at LinkedIn, hey, this is a company that doing goods for the greater community. It helps people to navigate through their career. It coach people. It publish a lot of great articles to help to make sense on a lot of things. Hence, I get very curious and I get very excited about it. Hence, I reach out. And then I was like, maybe I should go there, experience and learn how they run their business. And that's how the passions and the excitement of to what my own personal development and to the company, what they do to community, that gets me over to LinkedIn.
Got you. Okay. Sorry, I just had to cough there for a moment.
No worries.
And, I know that we met when you just started at LinkedIn. And so I was curious, you mentioned coaching, mentoring the people that were working with you at Apple. And when we were working together, I remember you said to me, I really like how you're coaching me. I feel really empowered. I really want to do this with the people that are in my team. What was the difference for you in what you had thought about coaching before and after that?
Yep. So I think what I learned from you, Kasia, the biggest point here is like, how do we really ask the right questions, empower people to give the answers, and to think about it, because they most probably have the answer. It's just they are probably not thinking about it or not using it. So that's the point. That's slightly different than what happened in Apple, because Apple is very much on, like, helping them to find their way. It's all about their future. It's all about, like, how they get on more and more on the way of Apple doing things. So it's never concentrated on like one person's skills or trouble that they need to face. Apple is pretty straightforward. Okay, they have their own set of path, what they need to achieve, the tick boxes, and etc. So that's why, I'm being molded that way to be very Apple, to achieve what we need to achieve for the people and the company itself in the Apple way. But when I meet Kasia, it's a very refreshing way. Like, how do I be there as a consultant? So I think maybe if I had to rephrase it, in Apple, I'm more like a coach and a mentor as a mix. But when I meet Kasia, it's like I need to get rid of that mentorship and really be a more pure coach by not telling people what to do. So that's where, I asked before, if you remember, is like, why are you not giving me the answer straightforwardly? Why are you making me think? I think I think that's where I got curious, and then you share with me the terminology of coaching. You send me a few articles, and you send me a lot of materials. That's where I got, oh wow, there is a way for me to not be a mentor at all and still be able to help people. Hence, I started learning the way, and I like it. And I think it works equivalently well in the LinkedIn environment compared to Apple, where when I was having my one-to-one with my young talent, in a team, I always ask them like those questions is like, like tell me what happened. What do you think it happened? Okay, what solution that you can do differently? You can decide differently. If you to redo this, will you choose a different path? Like, is there anyone within your environment that can help you to navigate through these challenges and etc. So all this may sound familiar if anyone who worked with Kasia before, this is what I learned, the mantra from Kasia when she talks to me. And it may sound straightforward, but when you put it that in your mind, it really make perfect sense. If I don't know, I will tell Kasia like I don't know. Just like how my young professional will tell me, Sorry, Peter, I don't have the answer." And that's where, I know they are genuine by telling me that, oh, they don't know what they don't know. Maybe it's time for me to bring in the education.
Yeah, and this is the part I remember I was so impressed with you because you actually decided on your own to go ahead and start coaching your team and you implemented right away.
Yes.
And, not a lot of people do that. You're the only person that said to me, I really want to do this too.
Yes.
And you implemented right away and you got such incredible business results. I'd love for you to share about that because I really think that's something that people need to know about at this time because, leaders are navigating so much uncertainty. And I remember as well, you told me that, in your career, you had to help your team navigate through the protests that were going on in Hong Kong, the US China trade war. There were various different obstacles that your teams were facing. So, this is the skill set that you use to help your team navigate through these obstacles. And so, this is one of the things I really wanted you to share today is how you actually got better business results at LinkedIn through applying this skill set, because I think that every leader really needs this skill set right now.
Yep, definitely. First of all, I believe when you are working it out with your team members, I think typical sales leader will always talk about numbers and talking about how they can do better and what a solution they can put into place. But then, back to my belief, which is like I think first we need to gauge what is that person's mental stage, emotional stage during this tough period or during that hardship environment. I think giving them an empowerment to share their thoughts to a leader is very important. Otherwise, I can assure you that, a lot of people will just go back home and thinking like my leader don't care about me. All he cares is about the number and all he cares about like getting me to work harder. But then I'm already working so hard. And why is this? I don't know what I don't know. I don't know why the number just not going up. And I can assure you that there is a big portion of the factors coming from that spiral of being emotional, and then that energy and that efforts, everything is just wasted when people are in that spiral of emotions. They are not clear in their mind, it's muddy, hence that they cannot think straight when they go to market, when they talk to the prospect, when they talk to any customer. It kind of like make them give up easily or get emotional easily. Like
And so, do you mean like the emotions because they weren't meeting their targets, or just in general going through a difficult period in their life?
I think everything can be a factors as that create that emotions. Say for example in LinkedIn, back then my young professionals having a spike in emotion about like their next play. I think it's fair to say that when people felt emotional when they see they felt trapped. Like, am I going to do this job for the next 10 years? Where am I
Mm.
going next? And how do I get there? Like, who can help me with that? I don't feel I'm being helped. So all this is in their mind. They're trapped. So that's what one example where people can easily trap in their emotion. Or it may be because of the quota that they're trying to achieve. It's just not achieving. It's just not there. And they will start feeling like, why my boss set such a high target for me? My market is tough. Like, this is not fair for me. It can be another type of emotion as well. So
Hmm.
without listening to your team, your sales team, without letting them to speak freely, you never know what is the problem that they have in mind that preventing them to be open, to be creative, to be able to bridge through to another person in the other side. So a lot of leader, when team member tell them about all these challenges that they have in mind, the team member probably get blamed. It's like, why we even have that thought? You're not supposed to think like that. So it's like leader maybe start telling them you should not do this, you should not do that. This is what you should be doing. It's like a instructions instead of a coaching. So hence that will not work as well in my experience. So what I have did here is to really listen up and tailor-made a solutions or a coaching or a conversations for that specific person. And I have to tell them very, very frankly, like, the reason why I'm asking so many questions is not to find blame. It's just I want to help you. So let's work together for a period of time and let's see what we can achieve. I can't promise you anything, but at least, I'm here to listen out. So the
Mhm.
more that I know, the more that I can try to figure out what kind of help that you probably would need. Hence that I did the same thing as what Kasia did, send articles sharing something that relevant to their current challenges. Let them do some self-studies. Say, for example, how to they be successful gaining their next play, those kind of thing. There is tons of articles outside there, but which one is the right one for their specific challenges at that moment? Yeah.
Got
So
you.
so
Yes.
yeah, yeah.
So you're
After
supporting them. Hmm.
Yes. After we get that cloudy mindset off, when we show them there is a possibility, when people are hopeful, that's where people get very passionate. And that's where, you can start talking a lot about business. How do we do it? What is our strategy and everything? You can find the receptions of whatever you want to teach them and coach them about business can be very and highly receptive by your salespeople because they get that away from their mind. It stop bothering them, or it reduced them the bothersome level. So that's why they have extra space to really listen to you. And I found that when someone is troubled about something, you can't bridge through. They're probably in their own world. Whatever best strategy you share with them, when they go and execute, they just come back and tell you it's not working.
Yeah. So you were able to tap into their creativity basically, as well as what I'm hearing, which is interesting because as you mentioned, so often sales leaders will be focused on the numbers, pushing towards those numbers, perhaps giving their own instructions.
Yep.
And a lot of the time, there's a lot of pressure, which I suspect doesn't really help people with their creativity to navigate through difficulties. What are your thoughts on that?
I fully agree. I fully agree because by giving another person a tool or a strategy, it requires them to make it their own before they can really maximize the potentials of that tools or that strategy methods to sell or to bridge through to another person. So I always ask my team members like if you don't have extra capacity here to digest to make it your own DNA in the strategy or in the tactics on the method that we're going to roll out, you will not be able to carry this and run.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be like carrying a lot of baggage yourself already, and then my strategy and my tactics is gonna add on more baggage on what baggage you're already carrying. How can you run?
Yeah, yeah, that's a very good metaphor, right? Because as well, yeah, it's so much harder to implement somebody else's ideas and somebody
Yes,
else's strategies than your own ideas, right? And the
correct.
motivation level is going to be different as well.
Yep.
Yeah, and so yeah, so I remember you told me that I think that you had said that when you were first starting there that they were hitting something along the lines of 87% of their target. And then it was, I think, in 6 months, correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a while since we talked about this. I think you said it
Sure,
was
no
like
worries.
232%. And then at the end of the year, something like 400%. Is that right?
Yep. Something along the line. I can't remember as of now, without my spreadsheet and so on, like the number itself. But then in general, yeah, that's the trend itself where we are seeing tremendous improvement in business. When I arrived there, and then I took over the business, I think almost everyone left, and then there is just two young soul within the team itself, and then there is a lot of work has need to be done immediately with them, in terms of motivations, helping them to navigate through the business, and to think about their next play, their future, etc. So I think, being a young professional is easily to get confused and helpless, and that's very common, including myself when I was in my younger age as well. And there's nothing wrong about that. It's just, it's good to get help. So that's where I have, if I think about it myself, if I want to help these two individual, and I need to build a team itself, how do I embrace both of them, and to add, and in the same time add more headcounts for the organization itself, and start doing the same thing for the rest of the newcomers? Because I need to fix the culture, I need to fix the way they work, I need to help them to fix what so-called the problem in their mind. Okay, but then the best way to do it here is to leverage their own experience, their own ability, by coaching them to begin with, and give them back the empowerment. Let them be
Mhm.
hopeful, they can self-independent. So those are the things that happen. Okay, like it takes a long, like countless coaching, off office hour coaching, that and there are incidences where I sat there like and that coaching going on and on and on, because the person getting very passionate about talking about all these thoughts in their mind. It lasts for almost like 5 hours,
Oh my
until like
goodness.
we left office in the wee morning. Because yeah, I don't want to just cut it off by saying that, oops, we should all go home right now. Because I think for the first time they opening up, or
Mm,
second time after so long of knocking on their door, when they open up, it become like an avalanche. And that's how much of challenges they have in mind that they thought is preventing them from performing.
mhm,
So hence that, letting them share their thoughts is it's the right move, despite it consumed time, but it's worth it. So after about 6 months have passed, on my seventh month, we achieved like 140%, from I can't remember, it's 60, 70% or 80%. It's around there. But in general, we are far away from hitting our targets. But then after a round of coaching, helping people to be clear in what they can do, and making them believe that they are really empowered to make a difference. And then they represent the multi-billions brand when they are talking to prospects. And then show them there is a way to solve their problem, show them there is an outlet from what they are doing, show them the recognition, and then all this thing, it's satisfied what they are looking for. And of course, there are more. Every individual will look for different mental satisfaction. And also I introduce the mental satisfaction factors to them, and sharing with them like, you have to start thinking about that. Okay, and then the coaching go along that way. So hence you can see people on the ground, they are very passionate, they're owning up the business. Every single young professional in my team is like a small little CEO, that they can tell you exactly what's my forecast, how many deals I'm brewing, how many customer I will tackle in the next 1 week. I don't want to go crazy, talk to 50 people, because it does not work. And I'm going to talk to five. Why? And another person from the different market will say like, okay, that works for you, but then for me, I need to go fast. I will talk to 50 people because that's work for me. So
mhm,
everyone is allowed to have their own secret formula, and they are generous in sharing on the round table what works for them, because they are passionate about what they're doing. They take pride over it. They want to share it, and then I embrace the sharing. So everyone is learning on the speed. Everyone is executing as efficient as they can. So a lot of passion, a lot of positivity in the team. Hence, that really influencing to our clients and our prospects. And I even have team member come and tell me like, wow, I never know I can influence someone over the phone, telling them that, things that can be different, things that can be do differently. And and the prospect just magically just believe me, because I'm telling the truth. I'm not saying that I'm lying, but I'm telling the truth. And then it's hard to imagine someone believe you over the phone. And I tell them, it's possible, because your passion, your authenticity, if you are being real, your prospect can feel that over the other side, and then they will listen to you and work it out with your business partner the same way. When things doesn't work, sit down, talk it out. What is the caveat? What is the big elephant in the room? And I always supported them by saying that if if the big elephant cannot be called out between you and your business partner, tell me, and I'll join you and I'll help you navigate through. You'll learn, and the next time you do it yourself. And this is the leading by example effort. So a
Hmm.
lot of all this happen like in the high frequencies, all this is happening, and hence on the seventh month, okay, we see a more than double of our result achievement, and we were very proud of ourselves. And
Yeah, it's a big achievement.
exactly. And then before I left, yes, you were absolutely right. The 400% there is actually like is some of the business partner that we're working with, and then we push the revenue acquisition up to that level. Like personally, our my team did not go to 400%, of course, because we provide a lot of pipeline, okay, as a sales development. But however, our results did push our account managers, our business partner, to be able to close a lot of deals, okay, and then achieving that for 400 over percent.
Hmm. It was interesting what you said as well about the emotion of the clients actually feeling the difference in dealing with your staff, even over the phone, and
Yep,
that positive emotion. Because so often I see in companies emotions aren't taken into account. Emotions really aren't discussed, right? And this
yep,
is something that I've been trying to change and to help leaders get more comfortable with these conversations, because whether they like it or not, emotions actually drive a lot of our decisions. They drive
it
our trust
does.
level, right? So it's there no
Yes,
matter what. And it's interesting what you said about the phone, because you and I did all of our coaching sessions over the phone before we
yes,
actually met face to face for our very last session on video.
yep,
So I see so many people now during, the pandemic are worried about relationship building and maintaining work relationships remotely. And I feel like it really doesn't have to be a barrier at all if you actually invest that time and effort, and if you're just genuinely interested in people and their well-being, and you're just yourself. You don't actually have to be anyone super impressive if you're just interested in other people.
yep.
So it's an interesting point that you make, that your team members had that level of success. What do you think allowed them to have that influence? What shifted?
Yep. I think the biggest factor here is to really be really interested and authentic in whatever you're doing. So, giving that example of like how do we manage to influence over the phone remotely, and etc. And we did a case studies. I was like, if you want to be interested in someone's business, and then if you're not putting effort in studying their business, you don't even know their business, you want to start having a business conversation. And I always ask them like, how is that even possible? I show them a good example like where I can easily fish out or detect when someone trying to sell me something but they know nothing about me or about my business. And I share with them a real life example when I was in different companies, when sitting in a decision making chair, where people trying to influence me to get on their solutions, to get on their service, and etc., where I would have to turn them down because it's either they did not do enough research whether how their solution or services can fit in to what where I am right now, or they are not interested even to have that conversation to know
Mm-hmm.
more about my business. They just want to sell me something. That is the direct rejections. And it's not even subconscious for me. I say I am doing it consciously. But many people are subconsciously rejecting you because they feel you're trying to achieve some agenda. And that's people felt, okay, I feel vulnerable. I don't want to talk more. So I asked my team member. We did some exercise. For example, they came to me in the past and say that, "Hey, Peter, I think this company is really interesting. They this happened. So I don't know how to convince them." I was like, okay, let's do some role play. Okay. So but before the role play happen, let me ask you a few questions. Okay, who is the person you're talking to? What is the persona? Okay. So what is it that our company solution gonna do with him or her? How does it mean to this person personally? And then, if they can't even answer and say, okay, your research maybe need a little bit more information, because you may know this person is sitting in a C-suite level, but then you have to read and see what is the most recent post the person have
Mhm.
in a social media. Is this person even exists in a social media platform? If it's a no, it can become an alert that you can share with the C-suite person and say that, hey, I noticed that you are not quite, active in a social media, like in Twitter, in Facebook, or in LinkedIn. Like, is there any specific reason? Because back then in LinkedIn, we are considered a professional social media platform. So having that conversation just make perfect sense, and just tell them, how what if I can help you to build a profiles and let you see it yourself and then experience it. How is it drive a difference for you personally? And whatever happened to you personally can happen to your organization as well. So help the person to relate, because they don't know what they don't know. But first, ask the right questions and then tap on people's soul to give you the answer if they can. But then, it's not ultimate, it's not a divine method. You can only try as much as you can. Okay, so you can perfect it, be authentic and genuine, so people know you care. You care authentically, not only selling them something, but then about their company welfare, their personal welfare. So it has to come in a pair that people think, okay, that's fair enough.
Mhm.
Otherwise, you go there and like, hey, for example, if Kasia, you're my customer, and I tap on, your mobile phone, okay, and then it was like I start talking to you. It's all about like, do you know LinkedIn can do this? Do you know LinkedIn can do that? Do you know that we have this much of efficiency? And you'll be sitting on the other side wondering like, what does it have to do with me?
Yeah, you're making me laugh because I used to do sales training for Toyota, and one of the things that we had to do was actually get people to sell me as a trainer to sell me a scooter. And so it was interesting to see how people approached it, right? Because some people just started to focus on the features and only telling me about how nice the scooter would be to ride in the sunshine. And other people would ask me questions. And those were the people that were really experienced salespeople, right?
Yep.
So those are really important points. And it's interesting, actually, the realization that I've had as to how similar your sales role is to actually coaching, because you have to be curious, you have to ask a lot of questions, you have to understand really what people need, what some of their challenges are. So there's so much of a parallel. It's just actually implementing it in a different, towards different people, right? In a slightly different way. So it doesn't surprise me now that you took off with coaching in such a big way. Now that I realize that
Yep. Yep.
you're a good person at asking questions, right? Already. Um, and I remember you told me as well that you saw that it was working so well with your team members that you started to apply it to all of your stakeholder relationships. Do you want
Yep.
to share a little bit about that?
Yep, definitely, definitely. I think the same thing, like, right, if you are applying the same thing to your team member and to your prospects, understand more of what's going on, that drive to the current situations, or giving you information that you don't know. I think there's a major benefits in doing that. So hence I start thinking like why is this not applicable to my stakeholder, even including our personal life? So, and before I talk about my stakeholders, maybe a small little examples. I used to have a quite tensions relationship with my father, and I use the same method to ease out our relationship to now today, where we are like, we can talk freely, we can talk very casually. Like always, like in a Chinese community where father is always here, your children always here, where you have they expect full amount of respect toward the parents itself. Maybe should not generalize that, maybe it's in my family. So the same coaching method is like, ask a lot of questions like, oh, so what drive that? What do you think about this? Do you think we can do it differently? Those kind of thing. And soon I found out, hey, it worked perfectly with my 70 years old father, where he start thinking and he start giving me answers, and then he start answering the questions that or the problem I'm trying to solve. And then he start giving me the solution by saying that, yeah, I think you're right, let's don't do that, or let's do it differently. I was like, wow, this is really exciting. Like, and I start to enjoying that, to help people to see things from a different angle. The same thing for stakeholders as well. A lot of times they want to execute certain things because they have that one directions or one strong reason to do certain things. Sometimes it may create conflicts for my organization that I'm running. So hence that, instead of going down and say no, you can't do that because it's causing me pain, it's causing my organization something. You can't do that at my cost. Instead of strong arming them to agree on my disagreement. So I think a lot of time to really like sit down to consult, like any specific reason we're trying to do that. Can you share me your visions? And that's where they start by presenting a lot about why, the why behind. Okay, then asking them like, so I hear you. I think that's a very good visions. And then I ask them more questions. Is this is do you have alternative if this does not work? Like how long is the period? What is the expectations? How many manpower you're looking for? Okay, like so like who was within the decision making table? Is this your decision or is like a group of decision from the leaders? So those conversations help me understand the context, and then I ask them like, what does it mean to you personally? The same questions I always ask my team to ask the prospect, and then it was like, no, nothing personal about this. It's for business. I say, I hear you, but then what if, it's not working? What does it mean to you personally? He say, then I'll be seen as like incapable because it's at my cost because I'm the one who championed the project. I say, I see. So means that it means a lot to you. He said, of course, it means a lot to me. This is my largest project of the year. I say, fine, okay. So would you be interested if I can, try to sell you some of my thoughts or my alternative that maybe we can reach a consensus? How can we still achieve the same goal but in a different way? Because apparently from that conversation, that person, that stakeholder have not thought of the downstream impacts. Okay, but then I don't
Yeah.
want to go to that person and say like, hey, there's a downstream impact. But then leading to that conversation, I say, what if we do this in a different way by tweaking this and that? Do you think that will work for you based on your expertise? And that's where people are like, that's an interesting point. I have not thought of that. Thank you for bringing it up. Let me go and digest this and let you know. I say, sure, no problem. It's yours. Go ahead and let me know if I can be helpful in any way. So it's more like consults, coach, and be at a seat where you're not offensive, not
Hmm.
harassive, not intrusive. I think the word I'm looking for, not intrusive to what they want to do. There at
Hmm.
times when leaders want to get things done efficiently or quickly, they don't have enough time to really digest a lot of noises. If you go them as a complaint or as a challenge, they're just like, okay, I'm sorry, Peter, I have no time for this. Let us execute first, and then whatever impacts it will show, whether it's positive or negative, then we will know. We don't want to give any definition before we say yes or no.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I use the same method to in my conversation collaboration with my stakeholders. Not like, okay, sit down, let me coach you, but more like inserting the factors in being a consultant,
Yeah.
with some of the coaching questions.
Yeah, just having the conversations, right? Because ultimately, yeah, there's a difference in having that permission to coach someone
Yes,
versus just actually being great at inquiry and
yes,
being able to have those conversations. Yeah, and it's really interesting. There's a book called Conversational Intelligence, which I just recently recommended to a client, and I think that's a great option for people if they're new to this you're fantastic at it.
Thank you.
I would be, very happy to have you coach me. um,
Yeah, we learn from each other. We learn from each other.
but I think that that's a skill set that a lot of people really benefit from strengthening right now, is that ability to have these conversations to strengthen relationships, and that this has such a huge impact in business, right? And in your type of role, this is something that you have to be absolutely great at, but it really benefits anyone in any leadership capacity, right?
Yep.
I'm curious, if you have, because I know that you're so passionate about working with young people and helping them succeed in the initial part of their career. I'm curious if you have any suggestions about helping them to manage the pressure that they're under. And of course, right now, it's not just young people. I will tell you that it's people of any age,
Yep.
who are sometimes struggling with that. What are your thoughts about taking off some of that pressure?
Mm, I think taking off instead of instead of saying taking off the pressure in my mind, I'm actually looking for the terminology of like how do we embrace that stress?
Mm-hmm.
Like I I I think this is me, Peter Voon, personal experience is like if we're trying to get rid of something, but that when that something, including stress, is part of you, like you have to learn to embrace that and find out the reason why are you stressed to begin with. Because like a lot of people say, oh, things give me stress, but however, the emotion is owned by you personally. Like no one can insert, like just like poke inject an emotion in your mind that make you stressful. That's what I believe. So when I think of that picture, I was like, hey, no one actually like forcefully inject that in me.
Yeah.
Why am I still emotional? And and it's interesting. And these thoughts kind of like, bring me a eureka moment. I was like, hey, it's right. No one forced me to feel stress, is I'm making myself stress. And then I start reading, and then I start looking at other people example and etc. And I say, hey, largely in the world, people are talking about another person, another things that making them stress. I think that's true. Okay, but then how do I self-help if that's the case? So I apply the same coaching method on myself, self having a conversation with myself. Okay, how do I do this differently then? I'm so stressed right now, my number is behind, or the COVID-19 landed, and then I start writing it down. Okay, COVID-19, and start to ask what is my worry about COVID-19, and then I soon realized that it is it is the world articles that flying all over the places talking about how serious is a situation that make me feel emotions. But when I start asking the question like what does it have to be like how does it relate to me, the only point here is that it may happen to me. I may be caught by this disease, and I will be in my financial crisis if I cannot work, if I cannot perform. Okay, that will causing me a downstream impact, and hence I start to feel stressed. Okay, I say okay, this is laid out straight, but then I can tell myself, I ask myself what solution that you can put into place to prevent this. Okay, be decent, wash your hand, like follow the instructions that advised by WHO or by the government, how to keep yourself safe and follow the distance, the social distancing, and really be strict about it as well for yourself and the team. Be an ambassador for that as well with in your community. Then I start to felt slowly easing out. When people come to me say, "Oh, I got stressed out by COVID-19," I start applying the same terminology. I say, can you change the environment? Do you have the cure? You don't, right? He said, yeah, that's obviously foolproof answer. Like I don't have anything. I say, but then no, if you can't do anything differently, you can't change it. What are you actually empowered to make a difference?
Mm-hmm.
And I can assure you that of everyone that I spoke to, none of them say that, me myself can do differently to change the way that I cope with the situations. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of them were just, I don't have the answer, Peter. Then I start sharing with them my thoughts.
So you had your own inner conversation basically to
Yes.
understand yourself better, and then you had the similar conversation. Okay.
Co- Correct. So the stress is in summary, like I feel like I'm the person that causing myself stress because I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what I don't know, and then I don't have the capabilities yet to counter the challenges, to have a thoughts, to have a plan. Okay, so that's why I make sure that I'm more informed. I find answers, I research, okay, to satisfy, all this, all this curiosity that causing me my anxiety. So
Mm-hmm.
when I know enough, when I'm informed, so I have a plan, or I know exactly how to prevent that, or there is a way to prevent it, then I will say, okay, then I have no reason to be stressed. Then there is a solution, or even sometimes there is no solutions. I say, then having stress not going to solve my problem as well. So
Mm-hmm.
having that inner conversations, other people may say that's meditation, but then I can't meditate. The moment I close my eyes, I'll fall asleep. So I usually just play some calm music, sit there, not with technologies turned on, just enjoy that atmosphere at my home or outside, with that calm music, to clear my mind, to have that conversation internally, and
Mm-hmm.
including the part where I mentioned, and again, like, no matter how you stress, you're not going to make a difference. So stop stressing, free your mind, and probably there more creativity will come. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
something like that.
Yeah, and I realized as well, because I forgot to ask you about your time at Salesforce, and you mentioned as well that you were taking care of a very large chunk of Asia,
Yep.
right? You were looking after China, and you were looking after two sales regions essentially, right? It was China and the rest of Asia for a period of time. That's
Yes.
such a huge area, right, to look after. How did you manage this kind of large scope as a leader?
Yep. Good questions. So I started off as a manager for the sales development in Asia, and that's kind of like the entire Asia, including of China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. Um, so when the team grow, and then I put myself in a Greater China focus role, where I tell my boss that, hey, I have more passion in Greater China, so I want to take this on. Okay, so you will need another manager for Asia. I can't do this alone because the team is growing more and more, larger and larger. So eventually, that I'm when I leave Salesforce, okay, I was the senior manager for Greater China regions, managing the business development and sales development team. So how do I cope? It's actually simple. It's always, this is my method. It may applicable to many people, I think. The benefits of working for Salesforce here is like we got to use our own platform, our own tools to observe. So I think it's nothing surprising when you hear me saying that, being informed through data can really help you to make a lot of sound decisions. So that's the benefits of having a customer relationship management platform. So when I took over, the first thing here is to look at, like, all the metrics, and to find the indications. First thing first is like, where is the source coming from? Do I have enough marketing leads? Do my team make enough phone calls? Do my team email enough to these customers? What is the content when they email out to customers? And then listening to some of their call to experience what is the content of the conversations that they had with customer over the phone, and all this will give me notes, like, whether it's I always make it like, something I learned in my career, from a CFO. They call it the GBU: good, bad, and ugly.
Okay.
So I'll start rating, personally, like, from data, from experience, from what the team is doing, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. So that give me a very sharp indication, the GBU itself. Hence, since I know what are the things I need to tackle first, it has to be done simultaneously. The goods, how do I maximize that? And then and I have to decide, do I trying to solve the bad or trying to solve the ugly? Okay, and then that's why, but that's the reason why I say sound decisions, because not every bad or ugly need to be solved immediately. It have its severity level. So that's why I have to pick and choose my battle. What do I want to fix to begin with? And hence, slowly I implement strategy based on my rating of GPU. um
That
I have
sounds like
much
such
more
a
to.
fancy term.
Yes, yes. I have so many to share about the strategy, but then, with the conscious of time, I think, I'll just go with high level, saying that, all the strategy that I put into place is really sharply matching on the GBU ratings that I put into the business that I took over. And hence, it's the same thing. After we completed 6 months, on the seventh month, I it's a joke that I told to the wider organizations. I moved from Chinese New Year means everything is red into a Christmas where it's a mixture of green and reds and yellow in some of our metrics.
And I know that you were really successful in that role too, and that you got Asia Pacific Manager of the Year award last year. So congratulations for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
And then you told me that you decided to leave Salesforce after that. Can you share a little bit about that decision?
Yep, definitely. So that decision is pretty straightforward. I think it's a personal decisions where I have built Greater China sales development and business development, and then we are yielding quite good results, quite very good result indeed. So that's why typing on the company's strategy moving forward. Hence that it made me think, where is my next play? Okay, what else can I do more? So it's like, hey, having an APCJ role is kind of like, what I would want to do, because it's very diverse, not only on GCR. Like I have grown GCR single in that single region. Now I can take it on for APCJ. Hence,
So
I
let me
got
just
an
confirm GCR is Greater China, right?
Greater
And
China.
Asia Pacific, Japan,
Yeah,
what's AP?
Asia Pacific, China, Japan.
China, Japan. Okay, yeah. Just wanted to confirm for our listeners.
No problem. Yeah. So hence that I got a job opportunity offered to me in F5, where it's a very very exciting role. And then the biggest excitement for motivates me to come over here is F5 is a traditional company that been in the marketplace so strong for the past 20 over years, and then their technology, their devices are probably wide known across the Fortune 500 organization in globally. So hence that they are now doing digital transformations. So when I took on that role itself, the motivation I have here is like, hey, it's like a project. It's like I have always been envisioning myself to influence a digital transformations, and then I got a chance to make a huge difference here, to help the traditional company to adopt more on a different way of doing business and help them to echo their directions. So the CEO has a big visions. He joined F5 a couple of years back as well, Francois in F5, and then he talks about all this digital transformation that excites me tremendously. Hence, I was like, wow, I want to be in that roadmap. I want to be there to influence the differences, to share with people like it is possible to sell over the phone. It is possible to influence with behavioral change when you're facing your prospects. I want to share people like how can I help them with what knowledge I already possess. So hence,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is going to be a very good challenge for me to grow not only my own what do you call that career in the future, but it's also good for me to really put my skill into the test. I've been joining a lot of great companies. It's very well established, okay, and they're very strong and they already digitally transformed. But now this is a company where it's going through that motions that can
Mm-hmm.
give me the turf and the platform to be to participate to make it happen. Hence, I was really excited and I make the move.
That's great. And I know that your skill set is going to be incredibly important because actually a lot of digital transformation projects, they fail because that people side isn't taken into account. And so
Yes.
it's an extremely important part.
Yep.
And coaching, actually, I'm actually working on a project just this month, starting this Tuesday, which is using coaching to support digital transformation projects. So it's an interesting combination of both the technology and the people side.
Yep.
Peter, let me ask you, as far as any sort of tips or advice that you can share with leaders who are having a tough time right now navigating through all of this uncertainty? I know it's a huge question, but if you have any thoughts that you can share on that, I'm sure that they would appreciate it.
Sure. I think in nowadays climate, where we are in a way like what do you call that? It's a must to do things virtually because the world is, for the first time ever, unprecedented lockdown. So having that said, concerns and doing things virtually, how to do, become a lot of a hot conversation nowadays. So, and I think of myself, why am I not that concerned? Is because like I'm familiar by doing things remotely, virtually, because when I started doing all these things virtually, I have the same emotion as the rest of the leader. It's like, how is this even going to work, right? So a lot of concern in my mind. But then, however, if you sit down calmly, think about it, like it's only an engagement with another person, not face to face, and that's the only thing. If we take that away, okay, what does it mean to you personally? It means to me means that I have to be pragmatic in strategizing my engagement to make people felt I'm there, I'm present, and I'm still engageable. And the engagement itself is still as smooth as we can. And this is not self lying or trying to be imposter by saying that everything is okay. And let's not avoid that conversation. Let's talk about it. Yes, we talk virtually, but we want to make sure that we talk adequately, sharing in the adequate informations, and be present, and not to be aware of that, not over consuming over the virtual engagement as well. There are a lot of mistakes I have seen in what leaders have done. It's like they want to talk to their team every single day, twice, in the morning and before they end their shift, to make sure that they feel engaged. I say this gonna burn people out. You don't talk to them in the office like, twice a day in a dedicated time slot. But why would you do that virtually right now? Because it is a lockdown. So I spoke to some of my friends and said it's simply not needed. I think now to give people that emotional support here is to lay out that that structure strongly. Like for example, if someone is coaching me, I expect them to tell me, okay, Peter, now we don't do things more virtually. So business as usual. So make sure that you have this done. Let's be clear about that. Any questions around what we're trying to achieve? Okay, then if that is clear, empower them to run that for you. Empower them to give you a business review, present back to you what great job they have done. Let them take pride in what they are doing. And over a Zoom, over a virtual conversation, it it need to have a good proportions of talking about work life and balance, and ask them like, hey, how have you been coping? It doesn't need to be only business, and again, it has to
Mhm.
be as casual, as candid, okay, and as comfortable as it should be. So I think the mindset of virtualization need to go away. It should be as equal as face to face, the efficiency itself, and then it's up to an individual leader to make it happen. Okay, they need to stop thinking that, oh, it's virtual, so that's why it's different. Don't
Mhm.
like people. The world don't need the obvious facts. They already know it's different. So you need
Peter,
to,
yeah,
yeah,
I have to ask you this question because to me, it's so interesting to see that companies. I saw an article yesterday that some companies are using monitoring software and they are monitoring their employees and doing things like taking screenshots of their computer, monitoring how much time they're at their computer. And you probably know my opinion about this, but I want to hear your thoughts about that. And if you think that's a strategy that, because we're talking about software here, right? As well.
yep.
If you think that's a strategy that's helpful, or do you think it's more helpful to apply other strategies?
I think that increase more stress. I think there's a pro and con inside it, you know. Um, I will have to say the pro side here is it gives leaders, it gives different companies an ease of mind, knowing that things are being done, things are being doing. But then that is just one-sided. It's just leaders. In every single company, like the leaders is a minority compared to their wider workforce. So if that causes the wider workforce a great mental insecure, okay, and that will be a bigger problem they need to solve day after. So that's why I will urge leaders to rethink about the strategy. Like if you if a pool like a handful of leaders get the ease of mind because of they can monitor, and when their larger workforce get to know that they're actually being monitored and in an intrusive way, it's either they will leave their job or they will just be like half efficient.
Hmm.
Okay, because the emotion itself is being impacted. Like to be very honest, I'm not sure how they legalize that. That's a that's a question I have in mind. Or maybe they have a way to legalize that. I can't comment much, you know, but love to dive in more to see what's implication there. But however, my personal thought here is if you can't even trust your workforce, like why are they even there to begin with? Why will you want to work with people that you can't trust? If you can't trust them, why are they still hired in your company?
Hmm. Yeah,
So are
great
you
question.
yeah, is this leader embracing a not trustworthy environment? And I truly believe that no one get into a job, wake up in the morning day after, it's like I want to do so badly today. I want to scrub everything. I want to make sure that I'm the worst employee in the world, like a villain mindset. I just simply can't find that person. Maybe I have not met that person yet, but that is a very distorted mindset, which I always ask myself: did this person wake up in the morning, you know, jump out from the bed, motivate in the most motivated manner, and say that I want to ruin Peter's life today?
I'm sure none of your team members would want to ruin your life because you're just such a great leader. But I'm sure potentially for other leaders or managers,
Exactly.
they might do that.
Yes, exactly. So it's just doesn't make sense, right? Like people will do that to another person. Maybe they are, but I have not met them yet. But then if that is the mindset and thoughts every single one should have. Like stop thinking like a victim. Start thinking like a winner. I think this is what leaders are supposed to be doing and embrace that in their employee. Like let them have a freedom and be clear and objective with what they need to achieve for you or for themselves or for the company by one way or another, and motivate them toward that directions, and stop scrap away people's freedom to take some rest. It's obviously that if they're supposed to work 9 hours, you don't expect them to be in front of the computer for 9 hours. That is just simply inhuman. It's just scary to even think about it.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it is the reality at quite a few organizations, I'm sure, and I think it's something that's really important to be aware of, right? Because unfortunately, there is that tendency to think that just because someone's in front of their computer, that means they're being productive, or just because they're at the office, that means they're being productive. But
Yep.
actually, sometimes that attachment to devices, it takes away from creativity, it takes away from that ability to strategize, right? So one of the things that I end up doing a lot in my role is to get executives to detach a bit from their devices and take that time out so that they're not always focused just on their email and devices, that they actually have time to do the work that they need to do.
Yep.
So it's interesting to I think discuss that side of being able to access the creativity that we absolutely need right now during this time to navigate some of these challenges, right?
Yep.
The other thing is that with the virtual work, a lot of the fact is that a lot of leaders aren't comfortable not seeing their employees all the time and not
Yep.
being able to see them come and go, which already shouldn't be a way of leading or managing people anyway,
Yep.
because that's looking at the clock versus looking at the results. So that's an area that I remember doing a lot of training on where we're talking about modern working practices and
Yep.
discussing, well, how can they know if someone's actually being productive versus looking like they're being productive?
Yep.
And looking at the screenshots that they're on isn't really going to answer them, right? Because they could be on a work document but not doing anything.
Yep.
Because it's just momentary. So I saw that yesterday, and I thought, I should ask Peter what he thinks about that.
I'm not a big fan of that, obviously. So because I believe that, giving people freedom, empowerment is fairly important for them to perform. Like, like I'm a typical example. If my boss breathing down my neck, every now and then, I can't perform. I have said this to many of my leaders. I say that, the best way to work with me here is to just like give me my space. When I need help, I'll go to you, ask for consultations. You need to believe that you hire someone senior. You're not hiring a fresh graduates. And I know, and you just need to set your expectation right with me. And if you don't, I'll ask you, why are we doing that? What is the expectation? What is the ultimate goal? So that's why this became my behavioral when I'm working with my leaders, because I have problem if someone micromanaging me, because I don't believe that I need to be micromanaged. I need to have my freedom so I can be creative to achieve what I want to achieve. And that's why it's proven my result is always higher than many others when I have that freedom to innovate out from the norm. And I love to quote this example back in my Apple days. I have ever do this with my inside sales team, where the revenue itself got almost tripled, quadrupled, I believe, where I call it the blindfold management. For a quarter, I tell my team, okay, when it started, I say, okay, guys, I'm not going to talk about numbers. I'm not going to tell you how far you have achieved. You can go and dive in to look at your own numbers if you want to, but if you can't find out, I will not tell you anything. Every day, any conversation you have with me is always around like, how do you solve that challenge you face when you're with your customers? And that's it. I don't want to talk about numbers. I don't want to know where you are, what's your close rate, what's your out of the box rate, how much accessories you sell. I don't want to know. I want to know how much you know about the customer, and how do the customer remember you when you call them back the second time. They remember, hey, you're Peter from Apple that called me the other day talking about this and that. I want every single one of the customer have a deep impression about who you are, where you work, and what have you guys chatted about in getting their life tapping into a high technology environment. So, and then my team was very uncomfortable. They feel blinded. They felt vulnerable, But then no, it's like I say, okay, guys, just trust me. Let's just try this. Let's don't talk about numbers. Let's just enjoy the moment. Enjoy the moment when you're on the phone with your customer and prospects. Okay, and that's where you will find Kasia. Their creativity just exploded. Everyone is so passionate talking to their customer. I say there's no roadblocks. Okay, whatever roadblocks you used to have, if you think it used to be a no, come to me, and I find a way to solve that for you. My revenue was quadrupled within a quarter. I still
That's
remember
amazing.
this. I still remember this. With 23 inside sales, the revenue increased from about, if I'm not mistaken, it's about $8 million, about 30 over $1 million, about 36 or $38 million at the end of the quarter. And
Wow.
then I got invited to a meeting by different leaders to ask me like, what have you done? Your team is literally a walking millionaire.
That's incredible. So you're calling this blindfold management?
Management, yes. So it's a fun name where I told them like, like let's just blindfold what does not help you to sell. Okay, let's try that. Because if the number checking, the number communications every month and week that we are talking about is giving you that tremendous mental stress, let me get that away from you. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking about it. Okay, let's give you ultimate mental safety. Okay, and let's push forward for that. And within a quarter, I was shocked. I never expect it to be. I do expect myself to fail as well by implementing that strategy. It was like I said, but I will never know if I'm not trying it. So that's why I tried with my 23 people of inside sales, and then I asked them, how do you guys feel? They say that we feel very light, on the third, second, and third month when we come to work, and we are so relaxed. And then when we're on the phone, we know exactly we need to make phone calls. We know exactly we need to call who. But then when the conversation is just so much relaxed and so much passion compared to before, where in the early morning you have an early morning fight club, 8:30 before 9, you talk about, like, hey, let's get this number, let's make this much of phone calls. It's so motivating, but in the same time it's also pressuring, that, oh, what if I fail, what if I'm not able to achieve what Peter wants, what if other people can, I cannot do it. So it creates a lot of unnecessary stress for them, because they will give stress to themselves as well, because they have fear. So
Mm.
there's so many impacts that go upstream and downstream. That's like, okay, let me remove that and try for a quarter. How does it work? And I'm pretty satisfied with the outcome.
Pretty satisfied, I would say. Yeah, I'd say that I love the fact that you experimented with that,
Yeah,
and I think that's amazing. I'm glad that you shared that example because I think that just shows that level of trust that you
yeah,
had, and also the level of trust that you built within inside of these people to be able
yeah,
to be confident in their own
yeah.
abilities.
Precisely, because they've been there for a while. They know exactly that they need to make phone calls. They know exactly how many phone calls it should be. But it's just that passions and that innovation has been disturbed when they are in fear or they are hurting in their emotions.
Hmm. Yeah. Thank you. I'm just, I love that you've shared so much with us tonight, and I really appreciate that you took the time to do this. And I know that for sure the world needs more leaders like you who really believe in people, really want to support people, really trust in people to for them to thrive and use their talents. I think that there's so much talent that is not getting really actually used fully at the moment because of disengagement, because of those the stress levels, unnecessary stress levels, because of the work environment, the culture. There's so much opportunity out there for businesses right now if they actually tackled these things and built a stronger work environment, a more trusting work environment.
Yeah,
So I appreciate that you've shared that example with us right at the end. I think that's something that every leader needs to hear for sure. The sales leaders out there. So thank you once again. And I know that I've kept you here a really long time now, so I'll go ahead and wrap up for today. Have a
sure.
great
Thank you.
rest of the day, Peter. I know that this is your Saturday morning as well, so thank you so much.
Yep, it is. Thank you, Cassia, for giving me this opportunity to share some of my experience, and then happy to share more.
Wonderful. All right. You have a wonderful weekend, Peter. Take care.
Take care. Bye.